Hi guys, Shannon here from CertifiedRN.com. Today I wanted to talk about how to get certified. So we had a video on why to get certified, but now let's go on to the next step, is the how. Everybody learns differently. There's so much education, books, DVDs, YouTube videos out there. There's so much out there for you to be able to study to sit for your certification. Now, the important thing is finding out what works best for you. I do know for myself, when I first sat for the exam, I took a 6-week course, a review course. It was only 1 day a week, but it was like between 4 and 6 hours a day. So for 6 consecutive weeks, say on a Monday. It was intense. It was a lot of information, a lot of great information. But what I found after sitting for that is that for myself, because the test was so question-based, that I was looking for more something that was centered around the questions. We all know how sitting for an exam and taking questions and having to pick from 4 answers is. Of course, we all had to take the NCLEX. So for Karen and I think that was our big push for providing a review course that was question driven. So we currently offer a 2-day course where we hit up everything that's on the outline from AACN for the CCRN and PCCN, and then we drill questions in, because there's nothing like being able to sit and practice some of these questions and eliminate 2 out of the 4, get down to the 2, and then pick the wrong one, right? Because then it's wrong. You don't get any credit for eliminating the other 2. So, you know, that was important for me, is like, okay, I need to practice with the questions. I feel like I have the knowledge, but so after taking a review course, because I do think everyone should, whether you do that on a DVD, a book, or in person, you know, just kind of like all those little areas that you don't have much experience with. So for example, the first time I took CCRN, I was in CV ICU. So the cardiac portion and pulmonary, you know, I did fairly well in, but what I did notice, it was in the neuro section that I did extremely poor in. So what I find is after you take a review course of everything, finding where you can take these full-length exams will allow you to see the areas that your strengths and weaknesses are in. I had retaken the CCRN, and this time I've been in a neurotrauma ICU. So of course, the neurotrauma portion of it I aced. But when it came to cardiac, even having 10 years experience in CV-ICU, I noticed that I had mixed up some of my MIs, you know, and understanding 12 leads. So the thing is that the knowledge is there. Sometimes you just need to brush it off. And sure enough, like after going through a few 12 leads, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember now, this is what we do. The difference between inferior, anterior MI and treatment, it'll come back to you. But point being is that ultimately you want to pass the exam, right? So you do everything that you can to pass that. And that means focusing on the area that you are not the strongest in. You can get these full-length exams right on AACN website. They do have 30 practice questions, and you can purchase them. I found that I used Barron's book. It was only like 20 bucks, and there was a couple, I don't have it in front of me right now, but there's like a couple of full-length exams in there, and I took those ones. Sit down, force myself to, you know, take the time to go through it, find out the areas that I was weakest in, and then focus on that. That's my advice right there. Is start with that, because time is precious, right? We all don't, working 12-hour shifts and working part-time, full-time, taking care of families and stuff. We don't have time, you know, or nor do we want to spend hours every single day, you know, trying to like master every portion that could come up on the CCRN. So I'm going to go through what Karen and I do in person. So I know that not everyone's going to be able to take our class, but you know what? That this isn't what the point of this is. It's just to encourage nurses to take that leap and become certified and become that knowledgeable expert in your field, in your unit. So I'm going to share my screen here just so you can see on the AACN the outline that I was talking about. So bear with me a second here. Here we go. This should be it. All right. So if you go to the AACN, they have an adult CCRN test plan. Now, this is also for adult. They also have a test plan for neonatal and pediatrics. But because I work in the adult neuro ICU trauma unit, the adult CCRN was for me. So what I did and what Karen and I did to set up a review course that would help other individuals, and like I said, this isn't for everyone. This is just one suggestion. There's probably millions of more suggestions, so take what you can get out of this and leave the rest, right? So here it says that, under cardiovascular, 17%, total of clinical judgment is 80%. And this is why it's important that, the AACN says that you have to have X amount of hours before sitting for this exam. Because you know what, you can read 1,000 books, but without having the practice, without having that experience, like, you're not going to be able to apply the clinical knowledge that you have with experience, by just reading a book. So it can't be done, because a lot takes that critical thinking, right? So we have cardiovascular. So Karen and I, what we did in a review, and I would suggest this to you, even if you don't want to take a class, is make sure you hit up every number that's on this list. Make sure that you're familiar with 1, 2, 3, all the way down. Like, what are these things? If they're mentioning them, they're the ones that are making the test. So I'd highly suggest that you know everything on here. We got respiratory, we got endocrine, renal, everything is broken up. So my first thought would be, take a review course any which way you choose to. If you prefer, start with this test plan. Go through all these sections so you know that you know everything on this test plan. So nothing is foreign to you. Take a full-length exam to find out your strengths and your weaknesses. From there, then you're going to focus on your weaknesses. A big part that kind of, blew me away is 20% here is on professional caring and like this ethical practice. And I feel, prior to taking the test, I'm like, oh, I got this. But you realize, like, there's some areas in there that I actually got wrong. And, sometimes we have to think, okay, what's best for the patient? And maybe what first comes to mind might just be the human side of things. Like, oh, I would just do this. Well, 20% of this is dedicated to this ethical practice. So practicing questions in this area is really important, because 20% in this ethic practice, I mean, if you think about it, that's more than the 17% for cardiovascular. That's huge. So once you go through that practice exam, find your areas of weakness, focus on that. And then I would say practice, practice, practice questions. As you go through this, like, the AACN has this one set up so wonderfully that it's even going to tell you, like, the areas of nursing action that that they're going to test you on. So by following this, I think this is a good start. Practice with others. I can't say it again. Practice, practice, practice those questions. Don't get hung up on those small little words, and then when you're all done, taking these questions, not only understanding, like, how to get from, 4 possible answers down to 1, you also want to see how these things connect. So if you have a question that's talking about neurology and there's some cardiac in it, where they kind of like throw you off, like, oh, a patient comes in with bradycardia, and like you want to think cardiac first. The question might be focused on the neuro aspect of it. So really honing in on, like, what is that question asking? In fact, I have reread questions multiple times. Like, I'll read the content and then reread the question 3 times. Okay, what is this question asking me? Because it's easy to get hung up on the content that has like tons of numbers and all this information in there. And sometimes you don't need all that information. So I hope that helps you to get started, and at least start with that, and talk to other people who have taken the CCRN. Lots of people are usually willing to tell you how they passed the CCRN. So best of luck, and can't wait to hear that you passed your CCRN. So look at our other videos. We have questions that Karen and I discuss openly in other YouTube videos, and please subscribe. We'd love to have you follow along with us and learn more. Bye.